What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. In each episode, we get the unique and distinct pleasure to talk to brothers and sisters who are doing or exceptional leaders and doing exceptional work in every field of human endeavor, from business, culture, civic leadership, the arts, you name it, and they share their God story, the ways in which God has been at work in their personal life, but also specifically at work through their work. And today, there's no different. I have my sister Naydea Davis. What's going on, sis?
Hey, how are you?
What's up, Inglewood in the house? Inglewood in the house. I know she repping. Y'all, I told her off camera. I don't think she understood the energy. I said I've been so excited about this conversation. Like, I'm kind of excited about every conversation, but I'm so excited because I always said, like, her name precedes her. Um, there's something to be said about being in the bridge, and being the creator, being the one who the names and artists and the creators that we've come to know and love, who have these ideas, and all we see are experiences. All we do is show up to concerts. All we do is show up to conferences, and we just think that these things just happen. But there are people, there are uniquely gifted people who are behind that, who are through that, and do so much more. And Nadia is one of those people. Nadia is one of those shakers. But beyond just her power and ability to create these things through NDDM, through her role at Revolt, the shout out to Revolt and the energy there, it is the fact that just her humility, her disarming presence, her, oh, that's my
Oh,
sister, that
wow.
type of vibe that the people who I spoke to about her, like, yo, she's the real deal. And I think that's something out of this world. And I think it's not even a question that we could talk about God, because only God can give a spirit like that, with a power and with talent like that. And so I'm so excited. Nadia, grateful to have you with us. But who is Naydea Davis? Who is Naydea Davis?
I mean, you set me up so good. I mean, I'm over here like, yes, speak. I like to hear this. So, Nadia Davis is a born and raised Inglewood, California native. She is a King's kid. She is a all around just chill, make it happen woman.
Mm.
I guess that's the best way to describe myself. But I'm just Nadia.
You mean it's just to you, but it's like wow to us, because I'm always curious about the genesis story, right? When I think of creatives and people who put things together, who build things, how early did you start to get a sense that this was what you wanted to do? Because it wasn't so much a linear path, right? You know, it was kind of like, all right, cool. I'm assistant to this person. I'm gonna do this, and then you started getting layups and getting opportunities even before you even believed it. So let's take me back to your childhood. Take me back to now, looking back, just some of the traits and talents that you started to cultivate.
So, as a child, my mother told me that I was always really reserved, but I was very, very bossy.
Mm,
There's a video of me at church, and there's a young lady. It's my god sister sitting next to me on the pew,
mm,
and she's like stretched out, and like she kicks me, and I probably am in like 4 or 5, and I do like a little tap on her leg, and I point at her, and then I tell her to turn around, and she sits up, and my mom. It's so crazy that we even have the video, but my mom was like, "That's you. That's always been you." So fast forward to high school. I went to high school called Hamilton Music Academy here in Los Angeles.
mm,
And I think my freshman year, the second sophomore, my parents were like, "You're gonna have to figure out something. We're not paying for everything."
mm,
And so I joined student government, and I said, if I join student government, I don't have to pay for anything. I can get discounted homecoming tickets, and you know, my yearbook could probably be free. And that turned into me being class president all 4 years I was in high school. That turned into me being the pep rally commissioner. That turned into me to being the events girl. So in high school is when I really was like, this putting together stuff is kind of my thing.
mm,
And it literally all started there. Yes, Hamilton is a performing arts school. I grew up singing in every community choir, every praise team, but voice was not my thing.
mm,
But I noticed that our student body needed someone to lead them when we weren't getting Grammys for, having some of our students involved in, high performing performances for different things. That wasn't me.
Mm.
But I said, I can bring past artists to our school, and we can have Adidas come sponsor pep rallies, and that's pretty much where it started
Mm.
for me.
I appreciate just setting the stage in that way, because I think usually when people think of people that are so talented to go to a high school like that, right? I think that there's a reputation to that high school, right? Go to a high school
Yeah.
like that, and but have skills that are affirmed by everybody around you. Typically, the story is that you want to be the center of the show, right? You're not the you're not the assist, you're not the Jason Kidd, you're not out here, swooping it up, right? And so, how did you get? Was it just that you didn't even think about it? It was just that, what, I'm the assist, I'm the connect, I'm the bridge. How did you feel comfortable in that, or was that something you never even thought about? It was just like, okay, I'm good at this. I'm able to connect this. I was able to kind of bring this person out, and that's the door. Like, how was just that journey for you around centering yourself in the experience and being behind the scenes?
I guess for me it was easy because typically that's my
Mm,
personality. I like I don't like attention brought on me unless I bring it myself,
mm,
right? So I have these long nails, I have hair down to the floor, tattoos on my arm, but those are all things that I brought on
mhm,
myself. If I don't bring the attention to me, I don't want it. So it kind of made it
mm,
easier for me to take a back seat, and on top of that, I did know that I was a fixer. Kenny Burns is one of the good friends of mine,
mm,
and he always tells me your special sauce is that you know how to figure it out.
mm,
Then I didn't know that was my special sauce. I thought that I was just doing what I was doing. My mother is that way. My mother, you could drop her in the woods and come back in a week, and it's a whole community.
mm.
So that was just something that I was raised on, and um, it just was easy for me. I'd be telling a lie if I was like, yeah, I just wanted to let them shine. I didn't even think about it. They was just like, this is who I am, and I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna make it happen for you, and you go ahead. I'll be right here.
This provides so much context, because I think, when we think about the things that you put together, and we'll get in a little bit more detail because she's gonna be humble out here, around the things that she's had her hand on. But y'all are superheroes for people to create and produce so many large scale events, experiences that are tied to talent, tied to brands, tied to these things. We all know people try to plan a baby shower and they stressed out, right? Like, I'm saying? And so we understand things go wrong. And so the fact is, you come from this context where it's just like, yo, and the same thing with the business is like, yo, we're a solution based company. On the flip side here is, it's like, I've just been a fixer. That's what that people know me. I'm the Olivia, I'm the fixer to try, I'm the person of this joint. So even so, I'm seeing this in parallel, kind of like, all right, I got a clear sense early on that this is somewhat of my sweet spot, but obviously this was affirmed over time. For you, then, what was your introduction to God? Where was it at that kind of those high school years? Who was God to you? Was it kind of like, okay, this is just what we do? What was the journey with you in God at that time of your life?
So I think I said earlier, I'm a pew baby, is what they call
Mm-hmm.
it. I grew up in church. All I've known is church. My mother was a minister of music for the PAW, which is the Pentecostal Assemblies. So I was always in church.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny because if you ask anyone from my high school, anyone from my middle school, they look at me now and they're like, "You have never changed. You are the Jesus girl. You are like, what? Let's pray. Oh, we got a football game. We're going to a rival school. We're gonna be on this bus. We're gonna pray. I'm gonna sing all the gospel songs that I know. So my intro was literally from birth. Um, and I carried it with me. I still carry it with me. And a lot of times people are shocked because I'm not traditionally what the church looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Then, but they know that's Nadia. Oh, that's God's daughter, like his firstborn, more than likely. That's the way that I've always carried it.
Mm. This you brought that point up, and obviously I hear it, and I kind of like put my thing back of like when you say, very matter of fact, like, I'm not. to traditional or this, like, for you, was it even just when did you get that sense when you, for example, was it just a situation of like, this is how I want to express myself, this is who I am, and I never even thought about it, or was there a tension in your walk of like, oh gosh, like, what are the church mothers gonna think? What is this like? Was that what did that look like in your life?
Mine's the traditional look, or the rebel of the traditional look, came from wanting to be disobedient, wanting
Mm,
to do the exact opposite of what it was my mother and my church family told me I had to be, or told me I had to look like.
mm,
Um, and that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me,
mm,
because I feel like if I had stayed directly what was taught to me, there is a whole generation, there's of young folk, of people in Christ, and or even older people that would have lost or not been able to receive the message of who God is.
mm,
When I returned back, and I never fully left the church or anything
mhm,
like that, but when I returned back to my home church, I was welcomed with, open arms, still sang on the praise team with my tattoos showing, still, my nails. And there were so many people that would come into our church and pull me to the side, whether it's young women or, young men, and they're like, I've never seen anyone like you on the praise team. I've never seen anyone like you greet me as I come through the church. Like, saved people are normal. Saved people wear Jordans. Saved people wear fitted. And I'm like, absolutely, we do. So it came from an act of rebel. Um, um, but I can say it now that it probably was the best thing. I mean, people even on social, I don't think most people realize that we exist. There is a whole army of King's kids that are entertainment based that look like me. And so that's pretty much where it came from.
Yo, I love this. I mean, you're spitting bars on that piece, because I think, even when people think about even the story of God and Jesus, like, he came as a human, right? So we could see ourselves, and it's like we could see ourselves in him. We could relate, right? People have to see themselves. They have to see God in you, but they have to see themselves in you. So what doesn't seem
Right.
it doesn't seem inaccessible. It seems like I could be
Hmm.
myself, and that it's not about me. It's bigger than me, right? But like, I couldn't help but kind of feel grieved, like, even reading, checked out a whole bunch of interviews, man, and like, hearing that, just kind of like how people are and what they assume is just, I think, sometimes
Hmm.
usually just pushes people away, and they don't come back, they don't rock, because
Right.
they don't feel at home.
Right.
But I can imagine that, just even moving forward, even the bridge of just the expression, understanding even that culture, even if the genesis was rebelling, but understanding that culture,
Hmm.
I can imagine that that also was very powerful for you in your career, because how you could relate and connect with people and talent and people. What did that look like? Did you feel like it was just an asset, because it wasn't like, oh, they didn't get tied up because you're like, here's this person around here, Jesus lover, you know what I mean? Like, versus this, like, what was the dynamic between you and talent early on in your career, and how did this help you?
Outside of like my walk, I don't think they really had an option to rebel.
Mm,
When it comes to like what my stance was on Christ.
mm,
And I don't ever like walk in and say, Jesus this, Jesus that. They just see it in me.
mm,
I think more than anything, I'm your big cousin, I'm your sister, I'm your auntie type of energy has always made it very easy for me to connect with talent, or, any type of client that I'm dealing with, because I tell some of my younger siblings reading the room is important.
mm,
And so I do a very good job of, or I try to do a very good job of knowing what energy I can give someone with still being myself,
mm,
right? So I can come in and I can be chill, but if my talent is, wants to get to the set and sit in the car for 30 minutes just to be difficult, I know the clients that I can be like, yo, we got to get out the car. You tripping. And then I know other ones that's like, man, we have to get up. I understand you're tired. I know how to gauge and kind of pivot depending on the energy. But when it comes to like my walk or my relationship with God, they really have no choice on how it's presented to them, because they're gonna get it. And I'ma just deal with, if they're uncomfortable with it, gotta remove me from the situation. But I've never ever had that. If anything, I've had clients or artists that literally are like, I'm not the Jesus person, but Naydea, can you pray? Like I've had it pivot, like literally. That's kind of just, I just been blessed like that. I've never come up with any challenges or any pushback at all.
You know, one of the things I picked up even early on, and I appreciate about your energy, and I love about your energy, like from this moment one, is it just seems like this surety, this sure confidence. It's kind of like you say it very matter of fact. You're like, I mean, it's just what you do. You just figure it out. You just, and I can imagine like the nature of your work. It's a very stressful. Like I can only imagine. I can imagine from the outside in, as people who look at what you do, we can imagine you got like 3 iPhones, the old BlackBerry. You just all these things, and you're like, so how does your relationship with God like practically? How do you manage the moving parts of all the things you do? Because you have a pretty significant role in a very significant culture-oriented organization and company. You have your own production company, like full service situation. How do you manage the stress, with God?
With God, it's just crazy because I literally just had a situation Monday. I had a really big shoot that I'm still working on. And I set the tone for my day with music. So whatever song I decide to play, be it gospel, be it R&B, whatever, it has a hint of encouragement. It's gonna be all right. More traditionally, it's a gospel song, whether it be a fall out, roll on the ground, or a worship song. So music is very important to me. Even on my sets, they know when they walk in, especially if it's in the morning, they're gonna get about 30 minutes of this gospel playlist, and they don't even flinch. They're literally like, "Oh, we know." Even new people that I've worked with, it's so soothing to them. It's a piece of calm. I'm always praying in my head, and always. Most people will not think that I'm so calm, but also most people wouldn't think that. Sometimes in my head, I'm like, Jesus, I don't know how I'm doing this. I tell myself that so often when I get home and I look back on what I just accomplished. I'm like, God, why are you so good to me? Like, why? Like, how am I even doing what I'm doing? How did I just pull this off? How did I just get this permit that normally takes 6 weeks in 2.5 hours? Like, how is this possible? But it comes from prayer. It comes from worship. It comes from just knowing that in all things I don't have control. So it doesn't matter what I do. I'm not in control of it. So I have to leave it to God. I have to pray about it. I have to, just set the atmosphere of not praying and worrying about it, because it's counterproductive if I do. I give it to him. And I'm not saying I do it perfectly and I always do it well, because I don't. But on the outside, you're gonna see that I prayed and I didn't worry.
You like on it. It's like like they talk about the duck over the surface is real cool, but the bottom, the feet is like. I don't want people to miss that piece, because I think particularly people in leadership positions, you have the unique privilege of stewarding people, stewarding resources. And the importance of setting the tone and setting the environment, because a lot of times when people think of faith, it's like this very private, okay, it's in my head and I just need to show up. And yes, that's important, but you're kind of talking about how this extends, and like, all right, I'm setting the tone for the day when people are stepping into this. That's part of my responsibility, and this is what I do. And I think that is helpful for people in terms of thinking about, how do I do that, right? I have one of my sister, Gabrielle Corney, just amazing hairstylist, and she just talks about when people come into that shop, when people come into that salon, she sets the tone for that day. I'm interested in just seeing just more. This past year has been a lot. Let's just say the past 12 months. And even though this is evergreen, I think for people, there have been moments or periods and seasons of life where it's just like, what's going on? And especially being in the event production, that's only obviously one vertical. You touch many other things creatively. The pandemic then pushed some things back, some challenge some things. And so, what was your conversation with God like? What were some of the themes over this past year when you're like, we can't be outdoor, or okay, should we be outdoor in the front end? Like, should we not? Okay, can we do an event? Should we not? Okay, they want to do something in Atlanta. I don't think this is wise. What do you like? Just what was the conversation with God this past year around just events and just the nature of your work? Like, I can't do all the things I want to do.
It's so crazy, and I know my answer may not be typical like everyone else, but I didn't think twice about it
Mm,
because I didn't have a chance to, because we had to pivot so
mm,
fast. Um, that I couldn't say, "Oh my God, we can't do this." What we, because literally it was like, we can't do this. We have to start doing this. So we had to figure out how to record remotely. We had to figure out how to get in people's homes and give them gear and equipment. We had to figure out how to, when I'm used to coming out of my office and yelling down the hallway to our graphic designer that I need something, I have to call them and wait for them to pick up the phone, and they may be with their babysitter. Like, we didn't have, well, I personally and most of my colleagues in the television physical production space, we didn't have time to think about the fact that we couldn't be outside or
mm,
what we were going to do, because it was already set in stone for us. Like, we can't do this. You have to do this, and you have to figure out how to do this.
mm,
I had to go from having a whole post production facility to now getting 5 of my editors and my assistant editors gear at their homes to make sure they're on the server of the network that is feeding the channel for the broadcast. Like, I didn't have time at all to try to pivot. We literally pivoted, and that was it.
mm,
And like I said before, I'm kind of a person, like, if I can't do anything about it, I just can't do anything. The day that I had probably one of my biggest shoots, and I was a little discouraged because it was the first time in my seat I was going to be able to highlight my city and where I came from.
mm,
And literally the day right before, um, they shut us down. Can't go outside, can't do anything. And in that moment, I was just like, we can't do anything. So why am I complaining that I'm in this house? Not saying that anybody else is wrong for
mm.
complaining, but that's just my thought process. If it's humanly impossible for me to control, I just don't worry about it. Now, if somebody don't text me back fast enough, I may be worried. Like, what's happening? But a whole pandemic and I'm sitting in the house is like, I can't do anything. So I can't do anything but sharpen up on my skills and get new skills and still make things happen. And that's what all of 2020 has been. And it just pushed me to a whole different space. I've literally lost 80 pounds from February 2020 to 21.
Mm.
I'm doing things that I never thought that I was going to do. I'm on the tech side of things, on just the personal growth and, working out and just doing my house that I've been in for 8 years that I didn't paint. So,
Mm.
like, it just was a pivot. And that's kind of speaks to what my business is. We don't really have time to uh, think about the situation. We just have time to think about the solution.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and that's just how it's always been for me.
Yo, this is a word for life. I think it's a word for life. I just think it's so transferable how you think about this. And again, y'all didn't think I was making this up when I just said she's very sure. Like, she talks very matter of fact about things. People be out here like, you mean, like, you just very,
That don't always work in my personal life, but yes, I'm just yeah.
It was funny, man. The other week I was checking out this note, and I was laughing because one, because you share one of the things I appreciated about you, even as you're going through these things. I think you've been sharing some of your journey in these things, some of the things that you've been navigating over the past year. I think you were having a whole vibe with a sister. I think it was like a session. You were on the treadmill. This other sister was on the stairmaster, and it
Oh,
was like, and yeah, the vibe in the room, but it was just like, but the energy was so cool. But to your point, I think your view is just saying that, right? It's not to overlook the processing, right? Your things do happen, but I do think it's important to view to say, all right, well, that's beyond my control. If it's beyond my control, that's under God's hand, and it's always been under His hand. So what can I do, or what may I be invited into in this season that I may not have done if we were still on green and still on go? Um, I'm interested, especially. I talked about just this very sure, but also this very humble but clear energy. And we kind of really fast forwarded into this kind of like this kind of revolt space, this NDDM space. I want to be able to you to talk a little bit more about that. But you kind of served this. It wasn't linear, right? Your career, it was patient. I'm wondering how much of it was it I had a vision for this. I kind of know the answer to that, but I want people to hear. Versus I'm just comfortable with I'm like it seems like you're just very fully present in what you're doing. And then if something
Mm-hmm.
knocks on the door, cool. Like how much is it? Is it vision? I thought about it, so I'm like, cool. I'm gonna do NDDM. We're gonna do this. Versus I'm just fully present, and if a door opens up, all right. You know what I mean? Like just what is that like? You know what I mean? Because it's unclear. I think for many people.
It's like you said. It's I'm present, and what happens,
Mm.
which has been a blessing for me because, for example, when I got to Revolt because a friend of mine, I was working Bobby Jones Gospel. I would fly out to DC every year on our buddy passes, and would work Bobby Jones Gospel. And my mentor, who was my boss at Revolt at the time, his best friend worked over at BT Overproduction, and my friend Sharice, who is the head of production and content at Revolt now, she called me. She was like, Eugene is looking for an assistant, and at the time, my thing was tour and artist. That was the space that I lived in, but I hadn't picked up anything in a while. So I was like, well, I'll interview. I need a steady job until I get called for another tour or something like that. Long short, I went in and I remember like the first month he was like, production is going to be your thing. And I was like, no, I want to work with talent. And he was like, okay. And maybe 7 months later, he asked me again and he was like, there are positions in the talent department. What is your thing? And I was like, talent is my thing. He was like, okay, let me check back in with you. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe about a year in, I'll never forget walking into his office. And he looked up and I was like, Eugene. And he was like, I know, production is your thing. Bye. And I was just like, okay. So it was like, I tell people this all the time, Revolt changed my life.
Mm.
I didn't, I literally went into Revolt as an executive assistant, thinking that it was just going to be a way for me to make some money because at the time, I didn't have, I think my last job was Target in Burbank. And I was doing like personal assistant work for my brother that was signed to Busta. And so I was just doing things with them. And so I would take the bus literally from Westchester to Burbank. And I don't know if people know that distance, but it's literally from the airport all the way to the valley. And so I would get up at like 4:30 in the morning to be on the bus at 5:30. Take the bus for 2 hours to work in the electronic department just so that I could have, a source of income before I got to Revolt. So there were definitely like many different obstacles. And let me also say this: my struggle. I didn't grow up struggling at all. I grew up good. My parents were like the Cosbys. My struggle came when I got on my own and I wanted to do things the way that I wanted to do them.
Mm.
So I've had times where I was homeless, that I didn't have any money, that I was sleeping on my car. I had all those things, but I always make it very, very clear that didn't come from my childhood or my upbringing. Sabrina and Michael Miller, that did not come
And they're like,
from that
don't put
at
that
all.
on them. Don't put that on their name.
No, don't put that on them. My mother pull up on me real quick. And my story isn't a story of I had it so hard because I made it hard for myself a lot of the time. A lot. Like I made it very hard for myself, but the journey was always up and down. I would see a peak and then I would see a super low. Um, but it just all came full circle when I got to Revolt. And I've had peaks and highs at Revolt. I've had peaks and highs with NIDM. Like I've had those things, but in the beginning, in the journey of it, um, it was not easy. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to survive. I wanted to be able to take care of myself. I wanted to um, be able to get my nails done and pay my phone bill and, not have to put a fake check in the ATM and say that I'm making a deposit because it says you're making a deposit. It'll allow you to get $100 out even if you don't have it. Like I didn't want to live that life. So I just would do whatever I had to do that was entertainment based that was going to get me to a point. Even now, people always ask me what's next for you. I don't know. I don't. I just continue to pick up things and and know what I'm good at. Now, it hasn't been the best way to move with my company. I found a way to structure and say NDDM houses all things. They're full service. We're production. We're, a creative. But in just my career as individual Naydea, it's been I'm present in the moment, and where this moment takes me, I know it's going to be greater. So I don't really have a necessarily a goal or I'm trying to get to this. I'm trying to be the best that I am. I'm trying to be what I'm going to be, and I'm working to be. I always tell people I'm that saved, cool Black woman in entertainment. And I want you to see God in this. Like, literally, I just want to work, live right, and make a difference. That's literally been my thing.
I don't want to talk over that, because one, I'm just so happy, right, that that you kept putting a foot in front of the other. I'm also so happy because there's something out of this world that gives somebody the push, right? Regardless of where things start, when you find yourself in the car, and when you find yourself like on that bus, I think people could relate to innumerable things in what you said, but just those moments when you like, God, what? I'm thankful for that, and I think again in this way of how you speak, very sure there's a picture of contentment, of not just saying that I'm satisfied, but you know what, I am where I am. Yes, I could have a little more vision, but I want to be as best as I can. I'm hearing just this idea of just kind of scripture talks about the quiet, simple life, to say like I want to live radical yet simple. I want to radically serve. I just want to love people. I want to do well. I don't need that much, right? And I think it's going to be freeing for somebody to hear that, because when they see you, they may not see that. They may see that this, and look, she's tied to this town, she's that. But the fact is, it was not linear. The fact is, you don't have the next 10 years planned out. The fact is, you're like, I'm comfortable with my portion. I'm comfortable with what I have, but I do want to do the best I can do, and I do want to walk through the doors that God has opened for me. For that, I'm thankful, and much more. I want to go a little bit deeper into detail, but for I think this idea, especially over the past year, of the valleys, the peaks. What tangibly does your life look like in those moments? When what I mean by that is, how do you lean upon God to get you through that? I think people can understand the feeling like I feel lost. I feel that. Was it just praying? Was it just I would call my mom and we would chat? Like how did you work through those valley seasons and moments without completely breaking down and not coming back up? I'm pretty sure you had breakdown moments, but and not coming back up.
There is a gentleman named Ubang Udi. He's my god brother. We were raised together, and I say that I'm God's favorite child. He is like God's favorite everything, and he is my support. I call him instantly, and it doesn't matter where he is. He's a creative director. He's a very popular wardrobe stylist. He will drop everything and pray for me. He has gotten me through my entire life, even as a child. I'm like a year or two older than him. So I'm technically the big sister, but as my brother, he gets me through it all. I tell people all the time, I struggled for a while because I didn't think that I heard God the way that everybody else did, right? And I would compare it to him. I'm like, God talked to you directly. You're stopped in the middle of a sentence and you say, God told me, yada yada yada. You know all the Bible scriptures. I don't. You can, I don't have the ministry that you have. So I used to beat myself up about it, and I used to question when God would give me a word, or when I would feel like I was moving from hearing God's voice and like making an action. And so I would call him all the time. And to this day, if I call him right now and I say pray, he doesn't ask me anything, he prays. And I have so many people like that are set up in my life, but he has been the one to, even when my relationship with God, it wasn't not present. It just wasn't strong like it should have been.
Mm,
Going into 2021 and 2020, I said, I want my fight. I want to be educated on what I'm championing for,
mm,
right? So I can't just tell people God is good. I can't just tell people that I walk on faith and not know my word the way that I need to, because literally that is what keeps us,
mm,
right? And so between really diving in and learning more and studying my word and having Ubang, it's been like, this has been keeping me,
mm.
I don't know if that answers your question all the way,
So
but
yeah,
it,
yes.
that's what's been keeping me. I can't front and act like, I can pop out Bible scriptures. I
Mm,
can't. I like, you grow up in church, you read the Bible, but you lose things when you don't study.
mm,
And for so long I wasn't studying. I just, I would think I knew gospel lyrics that were most of the time Bible verses, but I couldn't tell you where to go get them,
mm,
and so that has been what has kept me this year, is trying to focus more on my word and having people in your corner that are going to pray. Like I said, Ubang is the go-to, but I have a group. Every group chat that I'm in with all of my friends, if we say pray, they're gonna pray.
mm.
I had a challenging day on set on Monday. um Two of my friends, the one of the girls you saw in the treadmill video, called my production manager, got my location, and told me to come outside. So I sent my assistant outside, and she comes back and she's like, "No, they said that someone's here for you and you have to come out." So I get up, like, if I send you outside, they give you whatever,
Mhm.
I'm frustrated and mad. I go outside, it's them, and they like, "Let's pray." And I have something for you. Like, those, literally every group I'm in, I can pull from. They gonna pray. They gonna pull up and give me some oil in a bottle, a water bottle. Like, this has been my life, and I appreciate it because it's what pulls me through. Even as tough as
Mm.
I am the tough one. I am the, why are we crying? No, it's fine. We got it. I'm that person. But when I do have those moments of just complete laid out, like there's a video of me on Monday, I'm pacing back and forth by the pool. And I send them the video, and I was like, I look like, just jump in. Now, I know you don't know how to swim, but just jump in. If you jump in, all your worries are gone. But yeah, I think I answered it. I don't
Yo,
know.
get you friends who pray for you. Yo, this is there's the word about like this: strength is made perfect in weakness. And I think what I love about what people are hearing from your story is like this duality, and but it's not a it's but they're hand in hand. There's the one view of just
Mhm.
the surety of God, to be like, we're gonna figure this out. Okay, let's just pivot. All right, God, all right, this is what it is. And then there's also the same space in the same human being to be like, I don't got it. Y'all need to pray. And
Yeah,
being humble enough to be like, yo, and having friends and community. I always say God is a community in and of himself. He got Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God. He can't help but be a community. We were made for that. And having brothers and sisters. Shout out to my brother, man. He my brother now because you my sister, right? You know what I mean? Like who are willing to pray, because I think sometimes when people talk about this, talk about it on extremes. Oh, you gotta pray for yourself. Yo, there were scriptures when homegirl couldn't even use words. She was groaning. You know what I'm saying? There are times when you cannot pray for yourself. And so I'm like, I'm really moved by that, but I know others are gonna be moved by hearing that. I have to, as we kind of on this tail end of this piece, I gotta you talked about personal. I ain't gonna completely open the hood on that, but we're gonna press because this is not gonna be the only conversation we have. But I'm interested in your relationship with time and how God met it, because you have a full life. You're a full human being beyond your work, and you're wearing multiple hats. So you got NDDM. That's a full on company, fam. Like, and then you have your role, major role, and you also are human. You have friends. You have your personal life. How does God,
yeah.
or what has been your journey with God around your relationship with time? How do you stop? How do you just, nah, airplane mode, fam, I gotta sleep? What does that look like with God and navigating what you should say no to, what you should just say, I can't do it? How do you navigate time and these boundaries?
Fortunately for me, my work is my safe space.
Mm,
My work is my safe space, and the nail shop are my safe space. So it's been very easy for me to navigate time. I prioritize everything, right? So you can talk about my phone, right? I have if someone calls me or texts me or emails me, or if I have to do something, the response is all based on priority. Sometimes priority of the what you're texting me about, sometimes priority of the relationship I have with you. Um, I put everything in a priority pool. But when I need to stop down, gotta say, hey, you're tired and you're not going to be able to function correctly
mm,
if you don't drop down. But it's not, to me, it's not how people are like, you work too much, I work to make my life easier. And when I say that, I mean, so on Sunday night or on Saturday night, if I have to answer emails, if I have to put together some grids so that my Monday is lighter, I'm going to do that,
mm,
And so, but I'm also going to take a beat for myself and do the things that I enjoy. But I'm good at just making time for everything that I want to do.
mm,
Typically, if I don't make time or if I don't figure it out, I don't want to do it. That's just the reality of it. There are very few times where I can't make time for something, or I can't, stretch my schedule out, or just be available or attentive. People have so much access to us
mm,
now, internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can hit me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is connected to another email. Sometimes people get my work phone. They're so connected. Sometimes I just take a beat.
mm,
But God always is like, hey, you need to sit down. And when I don't sit down, like He told me to, it shows.
mm,
I start to make little mistakes that I wouldn't have made before. I start to, you know, forget to add a zero to a budget that threw me all the way off. And then now I'm trying to fix the fact that if I had took the time to go to sleep, I wouldn't have missed, a line item that I needed. I wouldn't have missed the telephone call. I wouldn't have missed the email. And that's just like Him slapping me on the back of the head. Like, I told you to sit down, but you didn't turn off your computer last night when I told you to. So
mm,
here you go. I'm gonna still allow you to get through it, but I'm gonna just make it a little bit more challenging for you to get through it because you didn't listen to me.
mm,
So
mm. Yo, I definitely want to catch this before we go, which is, what is your ideal rhythm? I can imagine music is a part of it, but if you had a day to yourself, and what are the things? What would the day look like if you walked me through it, where you feel like I would feel the most connected with God. This would be my ideal day. This is exactly what I would do from the time that I woke up to the time that I went to bed. How do you most connect and experience the joy of God in your life?
I, that I've never thought about that.
Mm,
Um, I've never thought about that. And recently for a brainstorm with our team, they asked me what was a perfect day for Naydea, like a relaxing day, and I couldn't even think of it. Not because there isn't one; it's just because I never think of it.
mm,
But if I could say the perfect day with God, it would be within music. It would be just just a full playlist of worship from the start of my day to the end of my day. I think and I don't want to just. I'm gonna think about that question, and I'm gonna send you a text and then have an answer because I really want to sit in it and think because I don't know. I really don't know. I just feeling God's presence through music, it does something to me. Like
mm.
I tell people all the time, I can't wait till the doors of the church open back up. I laugh, they laugh at me, they're like, "You're gonna be rolling all over the place." I may shout, but more than anything, I'm probably just gonna get up and just lay on an altar. Like there's just a presence and a feeling that you get from music and worship,
Mm.
that I miss. And I think that would be my perfect thing right now. It's just like to just feel that. Like I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna think about it.
Oh no,
I'm
that's
gonna
what's
think
up.
about
No, initially I had it in my head. I was just like, all right, at 2 o'clock, we get her to the nail shop. Okay, we get her in the pool. The swimming lessons at 4. You know what I'm
it.
saying? You know what I mean? You're Nadia. You're like you're us. I have to say you're us. Like it is. it is no surprise why people fall in love with you as a sister, as somebody to work with, as somebody to be around, because God exudes from you and everything. It's even the humility of like, I don't know, and just laughing and just because I think in a world like this, I do think that's joy. That's joyful resistance. I think when people are feeling really weighed down, to be around somebody like you, I think it frees them up. There's got to be a God, and on on earth. And so, my closing question would be, there are two things. One of which is like, what do you have coming up? How can we support you and pray for you in terms of the things that you have coming on? But another thing would be a conversation. A sister, a brother comes up to you and be like, they're feeling a little lost, yo. Not about like just in general, but they're like, yo, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in life. I'm in my mid
Mhm.
30s. I'm tired of just kind of being hand to mouth with this stuff, and I've been hearing about this God thing. Like, what would you in terms of for them asking about, just like what should their next step? They're just unsure about if that's the path. They're unsure about their life. If they came to you specifically, what would you say to them?
So in regards to what's coming up, I don't have too many things lined up next. There are some things at Revolt that I can't discuss
Mm-hmm.
yet, but you will see them very soon that are coming
Mm-hmm.
up that I'm excited about. As far as my company, NDDM, we have a couple of projects we're working on as well, but they're not, the ink isn't all the way
Wait till it
done, so I
dry. Wait
can't
till
talk
it
about
dry.
that
Yep.
either. Yeah. And in regards to if, someone was to ask me advice on, what they could do because they're stuck, mine is just keep going. And I know that's so cliche and
Mm.
people say that, but literally that's like what I did. Like I just kept going. That's what I'm doing now. Like I keep going until you figure it out.
Mm.
There's no right or wrong way to do things in my book, right? That's why I normally would never do this, right? I'm not the public speaker, the interview, the panel person, but a lot of my friends are like, why? And I'm like, because I don't want to give someone the wrong information.
Mm.
I don't want to tell someone my journey and then they go and do exactly how I did it and then it didn't pan out for them the way it did for me. And then they're looking at me like, well, Nadia told me that I should go to the mall and go at this time. So my biggest thing is just like whatever you're doing, continue to do it
Mm.
in your way.
Mm.
And if it's not working, sit with yourself and say, how can I pivot?
Mm.
Also align yourself with people that are on the journey with you, right? So
Mm.
there is a tier of people that I started out with. And literally, if you see us, we pulled each other up. All of my friends, from Tyranny to Jordan to Charnel to Sharice, all of my female friends, not even just female, it's a couple of male,
A
but
couple
my
brothers
female
in
friends
there.
that started as, yeah, a couple of brothers that started as PAs, we didn't have it figured out. So we tied together and tried to figure it out with each other, but we didn't go from we're PAs, we're trying to tie ourselves with the CFO because there was such a gap there. You got to line yourself with people that are on the journey with you or at least one step ahead of you to help. A lot of times, in especially this day and age, people just want to know who the boss is. People want to be aligned with that person. Man, you probably want to get with my assistant or my production coordinator because when I need stuff done, they're going to hire the next group of PAs. They're going to hire the next production managers. I'm not. I'm not worried about that. I'm hiring the $200,000 production company. They're hiring on the level of where you are
Mm.
to for you to get to where the production manager, the line producer are. So with that being said, I would say stay on course, keep going, and then align yourself with people that are trying to be on a different level, but you all are on the same level. If that makes
Mm.
sense.
Mm. It makes sense. Is when I like to always say, we all we got, and that's a lot. Yeah, I mean, we all we got, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot. And the idea of networking, I think even like Issa Rae was talking about it. Shout out to my sister Issa, man, when she was just like, a lot of people think about networking vertically, but I network horizontally, right? Because this is the
Yeah.
people that you need to rely upon. But I don't. I think people are gonna really take in that message around keep going, right? There's this Timothy
Yeah.
scripture, and Paul's talking up to his young dude, Paul is the OG, and he's just like, yeah, I mean, he's about to clock out, and he's just like, I ran my race. I finished my race,
Mm,
right? I kept the
mm,
faith. And I think to you, when people hear your story and the moments that you've been in, it's kind of like, I ran my race. I kept the faith. And that's why I'm here today. And I want people to hear that and not miss that. My sister, where did they find Naydea? I know clearly I found you in these digital streets, Claire, but how did they find you? How did they connect with you, sis?
On a personal level, or just wanting to be in my world, Instagram is the best
Mm-hmm.
place, right? Find me on Instagram, follow me. I share a lot. You'll get a lot of Holy Ghost. You'll get a lot of dancing. You'll get a lot of sneakers. You'll get a lot of hair, not a lot of nails, but you will get a lot of joy and encouragement and happiness is what you will get for
Mm-hmm.
sure. For business, LinkedIn is the best place to get a response from me. Um, that is the hub for. I know you're serious. I know that you've done your research on me, and you want to communicate with me about real business. That's where you find me.
Yo, Nadia, we believe you because we've experienced the joy on in this conversation in this time.
Oh,
Y'all,
thank you,
you know, I think on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you. I thank you for being you,
thank
fully you. I thank you for the work that you do. I thank you for your faith. I thank you because you know who you are, and I thank you that you give all of what He's given you to the world. And I pray that you continue to get that back, eternal fold. All right. So we love
thank you,
you. We got you. All right, sis. Take care.
thank
All right, take care.
you.